whatever. I don't know.
If you want, I don't know if you can change the rich him if you want to put like Chelan.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for the virtual community briefing for the 25-mile fire. I'm Stan Hinatsu, Public Information Officer for PNW Team 3. Tonight, or this afternoon, we'll start off with our incident commander, Randy Johnson. He'll kind of give us some insights about the progress to date on the 25-mile fire, followed by Shane Hardee, our operations section chief, who will give us basically a status of the fire and where we're going to go in the next few days. And then Kari, Grover-Wier, Chelan District Ranger, will provide us with some closing remarks. Before we jump into this, just want to let you know that we will be entertaining questions via Facebook, so go ahead and type them into the your comment section, and we'll try to get to those. And also just wanted to let you know that that you guys probably already all know this, but that this will be recorded on Facebook. We'll do some fancy stuff, pinning it and all that kind of stuff, so it's back up to the top for those who aren't able to view it live here this afternoon. And then also wanted to let you know there are a few folks I just want to introduce and let you know that they're here and available for questions should they come up. And those they are Curtis Bryan with the BLM, Larry Leach with the Washington Department of Natural Resources, Rich Magnuson with the Chelan County Sheriff's Office, Brandon Asher, Chelan Fire District number 7, and Ari Sorzadi, who's our air resource advisor who can answer questions about smoke. So without further ado, I'll hand it off to Incident Commander Randy Johnson.
Thank you, Stan, and good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for taking the time to tune into our recording here and get an update on what's happening with the 25-mile incident. So Pacific Northwest Team 3 is here. We are on our 14-day assignment. We're on day 9 of our current assignment and working with the agency administrators to determine how we progress with the organization and what comes next as we approach our time ending is what's allowed for our assignment. So we'll be working through that. But what we've been able to accomplish in the time that we've been here is fairly remarkable. The firefighters on the ground have done an amazing amount of work and have put in a bunch of line, have fired out a fair amount of the perimeter of this incident, all to get us to a place where we can have some amount of comfort that the footprint isn't going to change significantly from what you've been seeing on the maps, what we've been looking at. So as we continue to fire out, I know that's been fairly visible from Chelan, especially as we go up onto Stormy Mountain, and we'll continue progressing north until we come around the top end of this fire, the north end of this fire, and tie back into where we've already done some firing. That will take a few more days to accomplish. It is very dependent upon the weather and conditions being, just so that we can accomplish that. As we decide where and when and how we're going to, manage these incidents and attack these fires, we have a prioritization process that we go through, and we get information from the host units, from, in this case, the Forest Service, the DNR, the BLM, the fire district, and they share with us what they consider to be their values at risk, their high values at risk. We factor that into our decision-making process and look at where can we do the most good with the resources that we have. The highest priority that we have on any of these incidents that we do is life safety. That starts with the safety of our firefighters, our responders, the folks that are out there on the ground that we're asking to take on this work. We know that it's a dynamic and dangerous environment, and we mitigate those hazards to the full extent possible with the resources that we have. But all of that can't be mitigated. We understand that we're asking firefighters to take on a challenge. So we look at that pretty closely in determining when and where and how we're going to engage these incidents and these fires. And this fire being no different. So we've had the opportunities, picking up the good work from the teams that have been here before, starting with your local resources that did the initial response, the initial attack on this fire, and worked very hard for the first number of days and to try and contain this fire at the smallest size possible. This year with the fuel conditions that we're dealing with, and we all remember that that extreme heat that we had starting in June and how that set us ahead of schedule for fire season. We've been tracking 2 to 3 weeks ahead of schedule as far as the drying of the fuels. And so this fire started, conditions were ripe for a large fire growth. That initial attack threw everything they could at it. And then we brought in additional teams, additional firefighters to manage the incident as it grew. So a lot of work's been accomplished. Looking at those values at risk, like I said, we start with the firefighters and life safety, then we move to the infrastructure, the developed properties, the homes, the structures, the things that are important to the community. And we look at the resource values. Where are we trying to take this fire and minimize the impact from the fire itself to the natural resource values that are out there? That's accomplished through a number of ways. And one of those is this firing, this burning process that we're talking about, and how we manage that with low intensity fire where possible to burn on our terms in the conditions that provide that lower intensity and do the least amount of resource damage as possible. So all of that work's been going on for the past number of days and weeks, and will continue until we get comfort in the amount of line that we have around this fire and the security that we know that we've got it in a place where it's likely not going to expand in its footprint and increase in acreage significantly. So we continue to evaluate that on a day-by-day basis. As I said, look for those windows of opportunity when the weather cooperates and we have the resources in the right place to do that. The other part that we've been managing as we've been here, just for the community's awareness, is the infectious disease, respiratory disease, COVID being one of the things that we deal with in fire camp. And we know coming into a community, we've been very aware of our impact to the community when we bring in hundreds of firefighters. We have made that a priority for the team to manage as well, is to ensure that our firefighters are minimizing their impact on the community and how they're interacting in the community, and keeping them safe, keeping them healthy is a priority, and keeping the community healthy and being a good neighbor while we're here. As I mentioned the other morning, folks are generally happy to see the firefighters, happy to see the teams when they come to town to help them with their incident. But I suspect that they're even happier when we go away. So we're working hard to get to that place, to be able to leave you in a good place and secure in the knowledge that you can rest easy at night and know that the fire is not going to cause you any additional harm. So with that, I'm going to hand this back over to Stan, and we'll move on to the next phase of this. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Randy. We'll hand it off to Shane Hardee, our Operations Section Chief, who is actually working virtually, and he'll kind of chime in through Zoom. Shane?
Stan, you're going to have to change the permission so I can share my screen.
All right, you're good to go, Shane.
Okay, there we go.
All right, thanks.
All right, I'm Shane Hardee, Operations Section Chief, and you should have a map on your screen you can see now. We'll start out with the structure protection side of things. And so we've made very good progress on the fire overall, over on the eastern half of the fire, to the point that you can see these black lines closer to our developed areas. And those black lines means that we're fairly comfortable with the mop up and containment of the fire in those areas. And it's in a monitor status at this point. And so in some of those areas around Fields Point, you'll notice that there's some sprinkler kits and things like that being removed from residences in that area. At the same time, the structure protection specialists that we have out there are developing plans for geodatabases for each of those structures that can be utilized by local fire departments and emergency planners, fire managers in the future to maintain and use on other fires down the road. As we move south, going down towards the First Creek area, we still have a lot of structure protection in place on residential properties and stuff in there, and that will remain in place for now. You can see along this Division D area, it is still red there, and so we still have some mop up to do in that area, but we've made great progress the last several days. In this particular portion of the fire, we did have some strong winds yesterday morning around 5 a.m. and they relaxed a little around 7:30 or 8. But they stayed up pretty good until they finally diminished completely yesterday afternoon around 2 p.m. During that event yesterday morning, just before daybreak, we did get some spotting across our lines right in that area where you see the 29, I believe it is, on your screen, right above that Division D, and I'll circle that right there. A small spot that got across the line, we got on it quickly. We were able to get that spot contained through the day yesterday, and crews were able to successfully mop that up. That wind event did change our plans for yesterday, and that we had to commit resources to this Division Delta Gulf area to make sure that all spots that went across the line, and we had several, were attacked very quickly, safely, and that we extinguished those before they caused any harm. As we move around, going clockwise to Division Gulf, you'll see down at the very bottom of your screen where there's this little finger of fire going off near Stormy Mountain. And so that was where the fire sat yesterday, early this morning when this infrared imagery was taken. Randy talked about windows of opportunity with our burning. And right now, just prior to this meeting, one of our hotshot crews has been able to extend that line of fire around Stormy Mountain, going over toward Brannigan's Pike. And we're currently putting a ship up in the air to try to give that a little bit of depth off the line by dropping PSD balls in that area. So everything's going good. You may see some smoke coming up from that area later this afternoon, but that's a good thing. And we'll get into that a little deeper in just a few moments. This area around Division Gulf, going by Angle Peak and around headed north. Right now, there's not fire in that area, and we won't be putting any fire in the northern part of this line. It doesn't appear for at least a couple of days, but we hope to get to at least where you see this Brannigan Spike, maybe by end of shift tomorrow is our current plan, as long as weather conditions cooperate and we can do that safely. As we move north up into the northern end of Division Tango or Division November, you'll see some fire up in here. We haven't set any fire in that area the past couple of days, and it's held up. The fuels get really scabby, what we call scabby there, where it's mostly rock on the upper portions of the slope. And so there's not a continuous fuel bed. That's going to present some challenges for us to burn in that area. And it may be that we have to go down below into better fuel to get that to burn out. But right now, it's no threat to our line. And so we're monitoring that portion of the fire at this time. As we move up into Division Tango on this western end and that northern end of November, certainly there's continuous mopping up of that perimeter where we set fire in past days. And we're making sure that with that wind event yesterday morning, we had some minor spots across the line in that area. They were wrangled back in very quickly and posed us no threat past that. As we move east on Division Tango, we continue to mop that area of red line that you see there on the northern part of the fire, and that is going very well. We've made great progress there over the past several shifts, and we hope to be able in future days to extend this black line that you see here at Utah Saddle which is where we've stopped our black line for now. We hope to be able to extend that line further west after a few more shifts of mopping up along Division Tango. This area from Utah Saddle off to the east, going down the hill back toward the lake, we're monitoring that by air at this point. It's been mopped up and cold now for several days. It's posed us no problems, and we don't anticipate any future problems out of that particular portion of the line. Gonna change screens now, and I'll have to stop sharing. Pull up a different screen and we'll do a virtual tour really quickly. And so now you should have an image on your screen. And that is of the fire looking up 25 Mile Creek from Lake Chelan. And so we'll zoom in just slightly on that, just a little bit. And so that is what the fire looked like on 9/1 when we first got here. And so you can watch the fire grow through the days, and especially if you watch the fire down in the, not on our fire perimeter as much, but down in the lower elevations itself, you'll see that the fire is moving on its own. And that demonstrates the need for us to burn as we did here. And you can see that, and I'll toggle back and forth just a moment. But you'll see how here on the 6th, we extended the fire significantly up this slope, going up that ridge line toward Stormy Mountain. And that stopped this piece of fire that was trying to come up slope towards Stormy Mountain. So that was a very timely event that occurred for us on this fire and reduced that threat of escape outside of our primary containment lines. Now you can see here, this is the infrared imagery as of this morning. It basically, the fire on the southern portion of the fire stops there about Stormy, and I apologize for that, my mouse just got hung, but it stops there about Stormy Mountain. We've now extended that going off to the northwest, going off of Stormy Mountain, going down slope toward that Brennigan spike. And then you can see here, as we zoom in, I talked just a moment ago about the area around Angle Peak, northward up in this Division November country, about how the fuels are more rocky and scabby. And you can see that in this imagery. There's just not a good continuous fuel there. The fire has not got over into these drainages down below to force us to do anything yet. So the last several shifts have been spent getting the right resources in the right place so that we can successfully deal with that over the course of the next 3 to 4 days up in this particular area. Right now, our efforts of burning are concentrated further to the south. And just lastly, we'll go right here, and you can see the northern boundary of the fire and how it's done. We'll zoom out just a bit to get a better perspective on that. But right here, you're looking at the First Creek drainage, and those spots that we got across the line yesterday morning were up in this area. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Stan.
Thanks, Shane. Next up is Kari Wier, District Ranger for the Chelan Ranger District. Kari?
All right, you got me?
Yeah, we got you.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kari Grover-Wier. I'm your local district ranger here for the Forest Service. You've heard from the incident commander and operations about the overall strategy for this fire. And it's one locally that we have been planning for in case a fire that escapes initial response in this particular drainage, where there's limited roads within the drainage and it's really steep. We call it a pod, or a potential operational delineation. And it's, you know, looking at what's the safest place to engage the fire that is going to have the biggest chance of success. And so each incident management team that's come has looked at that and figured out a way to implement it, including this team here, PNW3. And so it's been a really good succession of planning and implementation to make sure that we actually do get that burned barrier around the drainage. And you heard the why behind it. You know, it's to keep the fire from coming out and impacting those values at risk, as Randy talked about, in First Creek and on the South Lake Shore Road and down in 25 Mile and also over into the Intiat drainage. So as we continue to implement that plan, you will still see smoke in the valley up in 25 Mile over into Manson. That smoke through our burnout operations we'll be seeing that through the next week, and then the fire, the interior part of the main fire will continue to smoke until we really get a good significant storm event, a rain or snow, which we're hoping for in early October, hopefully some little ones in between there. But until we get what we call a season ending event, we'll still be seeing smoke up in 25 Mile drainage. And then just so you know, like when you look at that map that Shane just shared and that large fire boundary, not all of the 25 Mile drainage is burned. There is a mosaic in there of burn severity and burn intensity, just like there was before this fire from previous fires. So as we move forward, we'll get a better idea on what exactly that burn severity is. Just also wanted to give you a little background on the workforce that's out there, folks on the line and all the support that goes with it. Have been working really hard this season. They're here from all over the West, including our local hand crews and employees. Everyone that can locally is working on this fire. It's been a really long fire season for folks. They started going to help other areas in the West, and then our fire season started. You've heard about our planning levels, and we're still at the highest planning level 5 in our region. On this fire, those folks are driving dusty roads. They're sleeping and working in smoke all day. So a big thank you to each of them for the sacrifices they make to be here and all of the support that goes with it, away from their families and helping us in our community. Also wanted to give a big thank you to all the residents in 25 Mile drainage along the South Lake Shore and First Creek that have been living alongside this fire effort for weeks now. We really appreciate the support and the patience as we make sure that we're meeting objectives and we can get this thing wrapped up. I wanted to share with you also about the closure orders. So the whole 25 Mile drainage and all the roads and trails that enter into that drainage are closed right now for good reason, right? There's fire in there. There's lots of folks working. The roads are both dusty and powdery and have folks on them that need to be able to, all the firefighters and support there, they need to be able to go back and forth safely. So all of that is closed. Yesterday, actually today, we added on the Intiat side, the 4 Mile Ridge Trail and the Angle Peak Trail, motorized trails to the closure area. And so those are, as the fire moves towards Devil's Backbone, we needed to close those. And then also as we will be starting burning operations there. So those, that's effective today. So that's an additional closure. Lastly, just wanted to say each of the 3 incident management teams we've had so far on the 25 Mile fire have been doing a great job. We started with the Type 3 team and then we have had 2 Type 1 teams, including this team here. So interagency folks from fire departments and Forest Service and BLM, state agencies, retired folks, all sorts of different people that come to work on these incident management teams and help us out when we need them. So big thank you to each of the folks on this team here. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Kari. Well, we don't have any questions, and that I think that's a good thing. But what I would encourage you all to do is, if you have questions, please put them in the chat in Facebook, or give us a call, or send us an email. There are those links in Facebook, and I think on the splash page as we end this meeting tonight. And also just know that this meeting is taped, so just let your friends and family know if they want information about the fire that they can tune in later in the evening and watch the tape version. All right, well, anyway, thank you again for your time, and appreciate you giving up a good part of your afternoon to visit with us, and I'll have a good evening. Thank you.